Good afternoon. Welcome everyone to the Cooperative Exchange Member Education Webinar. I'm Lisa Beard, Executive Director of the Cooperative Exchange. We're pleased to welcome Stephanie Soufflet, Director of Regulatory Affairs and Risk Management at the New York State Workers' Compensation Board. Stephanie will be updating us on the New York CMS-1500 XML initiative on today's webinar. We also have Tina Green, our Cooperative Exchange Liaison to the IABC, the International Workers' Compensation Standard Organization and board member, and Sherry Wilson, past chair of the Cooperative Exchange and board member, that will be joining us as workers' compensation subject matter experts on our panel today. Here's some housekeeping items to address. We will be addressing all questions at the end of the webinar. Please use the question or chat function on your dashboard at any time during the presentation to type and submit your questions to the speaker. For those of you who may not be familiar with GoToWebinar, just click on the plus sign and expand the question or chat boxes, type in your question and submit. We will provide the presentation to all those that attended at the conclusion of the webinar, and this webinar will also be made available on demand to the members only area of our website. Now let me turn this over to Sherry to introduce our speaker.
Thank you, Lisa. We're very pleased to have Stephanie Soufflet join us today, so welcome. I just want to give you a little bit of background, definitely expert in the industry. She has over 26 years of employee benefit experience, working for various New York State agencies, including the Workers' Compensation Board, most recently over 3 years, Department of Civil Service over 18 years, and Division of Budget over 5 years. Her strengths are in the health insurance and workers' compensation industry, with focus on finance, benefit administration, procurement, and most recently, risk management and data analysis. Currently, she is the Director of Regulatory Affairs and Risk Management at the New York State Workers' Compensation Board. Prior to the New York State, she worked for 5 years as a certified public accountant for KPMG, also in the government with banking and manufacturing sectors, as well as individual and corporate taxation. Stephanie has a BS in the accounting from the University of Vermont, and we're really excited to have her here today and to share an update on this New York CMS 1500 initiative. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Stephanie.
Thank you, Sherry. So today I will present an overview of New York State's CMS 1500 initiative, discuss the CMS 1500 process flow and timeline, show you the registration process for XML submission partners and providers, and then provide information on resources available for this initiative. I will then answer any questions that you may have on the initiative. As announced last April, the board will be replacing the current board treatment forms, for example, the C4, the C4.2, and equivalent OT, PT4, and PS4 forms, with the CMS 1500 to help reduce paperwork and lower the administrative burden on providers. Hopefully, this will encourage more highly qualified providers to treat injured workers in New York State. One of the initiative's goals is to leverage providers' current medical billing software and medical records while promoting a more efficient workers' compensation system in New York State. The CMS 1500 is the first of several phases of the initiative, and I will give you a brief overview of subsequent phases when I discuss the timeline. For phase 1, which is commencing in May 2019, providers may voluntarily transmit CMS 1500 medical bills and the required medical narratives as applicable through clearinghouses to workers' comp insurers and payers. This could be in the 837P or other format that is in place today. Workers' comp insurers and payers will accept the CMS 1500 medical billing files from the clearinghouses and electronically transmit acknowledgement of receipt back to the clearinghouse. This could be in the 277CA or other format used by payers today. The acknowledgement date will become part of the XML file sent by approved clearinghouses to the board. The approved clearinghouses or submission partners will transform the billing data into the designated XML format and transmit to the board along with the CMS-1500 image and required medical narrative. The CMS-1500 images and narrative attachments will be combined and displayed in the applicable claimant's workers' comp case folder, similar to the EC4 narrative today. This diagram is from our onboarding guide, and it depicts the process flow for the CMS-1500 initiative. Again, our goal is to be able to capitalize on existing behind-the-scenes data flows between providers, clearinghouses, and payers, with as little modification as possible in order to obtain the required data at the workers' comp board. Starting with the provider, they would submit their medical bill, including their narrative, to their clearinghouse. The clearinghouse will pass the bill and narrative along to the payer, possibly through other clearinghouses as well. Once the payer accepts the bill, they will acknowledge receipt back to the clearinghouse. At that point, the clearinghouse will transform the data and send the board an XML file that contains the CMS-1500 in the prescribed format, an image of the CMS-1500 that includes the acknowledgement date in field 19, and the medical narrative. There are a few additional fields that the board needs to capture that are not on the EDI X12 837P standard. This includes the board's provider authorization number, the board's provider rating code, such as COS, which is a board-certified orthopedic surgeon, and also the payer acknowledgement date. For the first two, we are working to provide approved XML submission partners or clearinghouses with a way of accessing this information so that it can be added to the XML submission file and CMS 1500 image. These two fields are required not only since it's included in our current regulations, but also it affects the payer's ultimate processing of the bills. A payer may object to paying a bill from a non-authorized provider. Additionally, the new medical fee schedule that was implemented in New York State on April 1st provides a higher level of fee for evaluation and management services for certain provider types by use of a New York State-specific CPT modifier. The payer will need to know that the provider requesting the supplemental fees has the proper rating code. The provider types that are eligible for this are psychologist, general practitioner, or internal medicine provider. We are working on a method of sharing provider demographic information, including the board authorization number, the board rating code, as well as the XML provider status with approved XML submission partners so that this information will be more readily available without having to contact the provider for confirmation in order to add it to the XML file. We also understand that including the acknowledgement date in the XML file is a departure from clearinghouse's typical process. The board requires the acknowledgement date so that we can attempt to reduce the number of payer objections to bills as well as payers denying that they ever received a bill in the first place. We expect that this will greatly enhance our ability to remediate billing disputes in future phases of the initiative. On the slide, you can see there are 3 other non-standard fields that are required to be submitted by the provider. However, we have moved these fields to the medical narrative as opposed to on the CMS-15 image itself. These include whether the injury is causally related to the accident, as described by the claimant, the degree of disability and the claimant's work status. Medical narratives that include this information will be required to be submitted with each medical bill. We do not expect the clearinghouses to review or validate any information in the medical narrative. As I'll discuss later, we are developing training for providers so that they can understand the CMS 1500 requirements, including medical narratives. One other process flow challenge that we're continuing to work through and will provide updates on soon is logic surrounding which XML submission partner should submit the XML file to the board if there are several involved behind the scenes in order to get the medical bill and narrative from the provider to the payer. So more information on that soon. We are also currently working to provide approved clearinghouses with our XML file edits so that you can be sure that a file accepted by the payer will also be accepted by the board. Generally, the edits that we will be checking are, is the NPI a valid NPI number in our records? Has the submitting provider executed an XML agreement with the board? Is the billed CPT code valid in accordance with the board's medical fee schedule, effective April 1st, 2019? Does the XML file conform to the required layout? Does the transaction on the XML file have an attachment? And is the attachment formatted correctly? To assist XML submission partners, we expect to post a file to the board's website prior to the start of testing to advise you of providers who have already executed an XML submission agreement with the board. We estimate there are about 5,000 providers who have already executed an agreement. Approximately half, or 2,500, electronically submitted medical bills, such as the EC4 NAIR, to payers and the board last year. To put this in context, there are over 14,000 treating providers currently in the system and another 15,000 who are authorized but inactive and may have executed an XML agreement in the past. Details on the XML file layout and attachment requirements are posted to the board's website. The easiest way to locate this is by searching for XML submission partner on the home page, which is wcb.ny.gov. I'll show you these sections when we get to the resource portion of today's discussion. We expect to be ready to start testing with potential XML submission partners in early May. We're currently completing IT work to allow validation based on NPI. Testing will occur in 2 cycles. The first confirms the XML submission partner's ability to deliver a compliant XML file in the required format. The second part will be parallel testing and requires potential XML submission partner to line up providers and payers to participate in the testing. The test medical bills and narratives will move from the provider to the clearinghouse to the payer. Then the XML submission partner will submit 100 records to the board, which we will compare to the provider's submission, to however they filed it, to ensure that the data fields are accurately submitted. XML submission partners who successfully complete these 2 testing cycles will be moved to production, which is expected to start in late May 2019. As XML submission partners move through the testing phases, the board will update our website to provide the status of potential and approved XML submission partners. And I'll show you that in a minute. By the end of May, the board will be posting a training video to our website and will be hosting 2 live Q&A sessions to ensure that providers and payers know what to do in order to participate in the initiative. As soon as the dates are set, we will provide notice through the board's website. Future phases of the CMS 1500 initiative are still under development, but are expected to include electronic explanation of benefits to notify the provider of any payer objections to the bill, and possibly IABC state reporting to notify the board of the payer's adjudication of the bills. We also plan to streamline the provider appeal process by piggybacking on electronic data available in the CMS 1500 and EOB. Once the voluntary CMS 1500 submissions are underway and successful, the board plans to propose regulations to mandate electronic submission. Part of the proposed regulation change will include exemption criteria for providers with very few claims or for whom the mandate would be a hardship. Originally, phase 2 was expected to start on or around July 2019. This will be delayed and will likely not start before 2020. So now that you know more about the CMS 1500 initiative, you may be wondering, how do I register my clearinghouse? We have an online registration process for interested clearinghouses. The best way to locate it on the board's website is to go to www.wcb.ny.gov and type in registration for XML forms submission in the search field. I'm going to click on the link now. The requested registration information is primarily contact information. I'll show you. Oops. So it's here under XML submission partner registration. As I said, it's primarily contact information. Upon receipt of your registration, our customer service unit will reach out with any follow-up questions and will also send you a testing agreement should you wish to proceed. After testing is successfully completed, you will need to execute an XML submission partner agreement, whether you are a new or an existing XML partner. A sample agreement is included in our onboarding guide, which I will discuss soon. Additionally, the board's website includes a web page to notify stakeholders of potential XML submission partners' current status with regard to this initiative. It can easily be accessed from the same area of the website by searching for List of XML Submission Partners. And I'll show you that now. So this is our view of our current website. As you can see from the web page, there are currently 19 clearinghouses listed. 15 have executed a testing agreement with the board and will be queued up for testing as soon as the board and they are ready to commence. One has expressed interest, but has not yet followed through with a testing agreement, and 3 are existing XML submission partners who have not yet notified the board of their interest in the CMS 1500 initiative. The board will keep this web page updated so that stakeholders are aware of the current status for each clearinghouse. For providers, we also have online registration, which is on the same web page I showed a minute ago. Provider registration for XML form submission. The steps are similar to the XML submission partner registration. We will collect contact information, follow up with any questions, and send the provider an XML agreement to execute. If the provider has already completed an XML agreement, for example, to submit the EC4 NAIR forms through one of our current XML partners, the provider does not need to execute a new agreement to participate in the CMS 1500 initiative. As I mentioned earlier, we will soon have a listing available to XML submission partners of all providers who have already executed an agreement and who are eligible to participate in the CMS 1500 initiative. Please note, the board may not have the NPI for all providers if they did not update their contact information within the last 12 to 18 months. As I mentioned earlier, NPI is a required field and is one that the board will validate upon receipt of the XML files from the clearinghouses. On the board's website, all 14,000 providers who are authorized and who updated their contact information with NPI are listed. To find this information from the board's homepage, search for Healthcare Provider Search. I'm going to link to that now. So on this site of our website, you can search for a individual healthcare provider. You can search by type. Today I'm going to show you how you can get a listing of all the providers who are authorized and who have registered with the board. So you would click on Find All, and then All Treating Providers, and hit Search. This is going to pull up a list of all the providers, again, who are authorized and registered. You can see that as of today, there are 14,362 providers at slightly over 22,000 addresses. If you scroll down, you'll see all of the type of information that we collect for each of the providers. Let's, okay. So on the right-hand side, you'll see the name, phone number, the address, county, whether they are accepting new patients, the workers' comp authorization number, their license number, NPI, their specialty. You can also, if you scroll down to the bottom of this search, export it to Excel so that you could get one listing of all 14,000 providers, and you would have their authorization number as well as NPI and any other information. I'm just going to show you that quickly. And here we go. So this is an Excel spreadsheet, and it has all 22,000 locations for the 14,000 providers who are authorized and registered with the board. If a provider is workers' comp authorized, but they are not listed in the search, they should first ensure that they have updated their contact information in the Health Commerce system. So that is also available from our website, and there is a link to it on our website. Let's see. Right here, Health Commerce System requirements. That links with the Department of Health and collects additional contact information that is then linked with the board information. If a provider has already done that and still does not show up on our website, the last resort is to contact our medical director's office for assistance. And I have included their email address. It's provider@wcb.ny.gov. There are many resources available to assist you, starting with the CMS 1500 initiative page on the board's website. You can either visit it directly at wcb.ny.gov/CMS-1500, or go to the board's homepage and search for CMS 1500. We post updates to the website regularly. We have an overview here. There's also a timeline, news, FAQs, which I'll just click on. We have that sorted by general questions, questions for providers, XML submission partners, and payers. Going back to the CMS 1500 requirements, we show examples of what the CMS 1500 would look like if it was submitted to us by various provider types. We have a crosswalk from the current medical forms, and we also have information on the narrative requirements. Other than the updates and the FAQ, this section of the website is primarily geared towards providers. There's also a dedicated email address for stakeholders to send questions about the initiative. It's cms1500@wcb.ny.gov. We attempt to answer all questions or at least acknowledge receipt within 2 business days. As previously mentioned, by the end of May, the board will be posting a training video to our website and will be hosting 2 live Q&A sessions to ensure that providers and payers know what to do in order to participate in the initiative. As soon as the dates are set, we'll provide notice through the board's website. You're welcome to participate, or if it would be helpful to arrange a separate Q&A session for clearinghouses, we can arrange that as well. We also have a separate section of the website geared towards XML submission partners. From the board's homepage, wcb.ny.gov, you would search on XML submission partner and then click on the link for XML form submission overview. So I'm going to go to that part of the website. All right, XML submission partner. Okay, so this area of the website contains an overview, the XML schema and requirements matrix, which is right here. This is detailed information, the matrix regarding the XML file. This is the XML information itself. We have information also on the attachments. We also have the direct link to how to register, and then the onboarding guide, which I'll click on now. The onboarding guide is for new XML submission partners, and it provides an overview of the initiative, how to register, details on the testing cycles, and sample provider and XML submission partner agreements, as well as more. Let's see, I will bring you to the XML submission partner agreement, which is on page 11. You could take a look at that in advance so that you understand the requirements to be an XML submission partner. And then also in here, just for your reference, are the XML submission agreements for providers. There's one for in-state as well as out-of-state.